This is the first teaching here at the my land, which is the retreat land, and it's so delighted. We have so many things. There's so many things that have been worked on. We've had flurries of electricians, and the plumber was here, and getting. Oh, thank you. This is okay here. I got. Oh, thank you. This. It's okay. That's okay. I got a little watch here. It's going to work fine. Thank you, dear. And many students are here, and we've had a lot of activities that have gone on today. Yes, dear.
Is your microphone on?
Yes, thank you.
Sorry.
You check the machine there. You can
It's
see
on.
it moving. Okay, good. And so we are delighted. We are delighted to have this our first teaching here at the auspicious land that has been longly waited for. Tankas are hung. I brought tankas, many tankas from California, and many objects. We have some Tibetan antique trunks. If you're listening from Santa Rosa and you wonder where the trunks were that were in the corner, they're here now, and and it's quite beautiful. And the weather has been turned quite bitter. We actually had snow on the ground, and we have now it's warm just a little bit, but furnace doesn't go in until next week. But we're managing just fine with space heaters. So tonight is a subject that I approach with some delight. It was a subject that came to me while I was traveling cross country in the motorhome, coming toward California, toward Wisconsin, toward Wisconsin in June, and this is as I driving along, my mind go to important ideas and subjects, and this came to me carefully, and so tonight's discussion is what is an idea? What is an idea like that? And ideas are the modules of process that are one of your techniques interacting with the world. Ideas are the modules of process that are one of your techniques for interacting with the world. All right. And the history, this word comes from both the Latin and Greek, in their language, meaning to see. And in that way, it appears that that there is from my understanding, a gathering of information. And however, I am thinking that this not so easy to take one word and say both the Greeks and the Latin say idea means to see, because we know from our own explorations, certainly in the Tibetan language as well as the Sanskrit, which predated the Tibetan for Buddhist studies, as well as English language, that there are many nuances. There are many nuances to language. So I'm thinking that when somebody, this reminds me of Giuseppe Tucci, like that, who not only discovered Tibet like that in his mind, and as well as with extremely rudimentary Tibetan language, that he was translating Tibetan texts, and they sounded just bizarre. And no Tibetan scholar would have been laughed off the debate court with the kind of language and understanding that Giuseppe Tucci. Oh, please, someone. Chung Chung, you go sit in someone's lap. I have nothing to say to you at this moment. And I'm thinking that the Greeks had many nuances to this word idea, that we can't impose upon their knowing in order for us to have some superficial understanding of what the Greeks said it means to see, like that. That sounds like too much childlike. What do you think? So like that, this word, ideal, however, the derivation does come from the Greek and well as Latin sources. So ideas are mental activities. And idea operates under the meaning of notion. But a notion has a feeling of unexamined or light-hearted, a result of impressions. And this means that there is not much analysis or reflection. Now, this could also be used to harm someone by demeaning their thinking as useless. It's part of English language to say to someone, well, buddy, like that, you've got some funny notions there. Or you've got a notion to take off and go to India, like that. And in that way, your idea has been reduced by another person's analysis to some kind of meaningless process that's going on in you that doesn't have anything to do with larger logical possibilities, and certainly doesn't have anything to do with any kind of correct thinking, like that. I don't know, I sometimes need a spool of thread. And so I go into a store and I go to the notion department. What that mean? How does a notion and that kind of notion come together? I don't know. Is it like small funny ideas, thread and little scissors and little tiny things, needles? Huh?
Yeah.
Who knows?
I used to work in the notions
Yes?
department.
And what did it mean?
And that's exactly what it was, little bits and pieces to make something else.
Okay, well that's interesting, and I don't know how that comes across in our discussion tonight, but having to do with, and one could personally have a notion, I from time to time have a notion to get an ice cream cone, like that. Is that okay to say like that? Mm-hmm. And in that way, you could use it interchangeably. I've got an idea to go and get an ice cream cone, but you don't want to give it full status, so you say, I've got a notion to do this. And certainly, if I examined it more closely, I would probably decide not to go, like that, knowing how many calories it is, and like that, and how little time, and how little I need an ice cream cone, but still I have a notion to go there. All right? And it could also be beneficial. Beneficial in the method of holding an unformed idea without giving it full status as an idea. And it allows you to interact with others or with other ideas without losing correct logic. So it is a nuance of your own language to be able to have an unformed, and if you say I've got a notion to fly to the moon or something, I don't know if you'd have a notion to do that. What could we say? Okay, let's say to fly to the moon, that you don't have to either own a spaceship or know someone who has a spaceship, that you don't have to have any education, such as astronauts. Astronauts have. I was watching last night this young fellow in the 1950s who became a rocket scientist. It was really a wonderful movie called October Sky. And his delight, it was very inspiring to see his dedication and his inspiration, even though he, a boy living in West Virginia with no hopes of ever becoming a rocket scientist. And in fact, that's what he did become. And anyway, I could have a notion to go to the moon, nor do I have, what does it cost now, $20 million to go up in space like that? And I don't need any of those things. I don't need any of those things. I only need a partial idea in order to be able to enliven something. It could mean that I'm not happy on this earth and I'd like to go to the moon, like that. And or it could mean that my nature is to fly high. We don't know where that notion is coming from. However, we can keep a part of language so that you are able to express things without needing to give every single logical piece of information. You with me? Mm-hmm. All right. And so, another method is to talk about impressions. And impressions are the food of the senses. It is the very perceptual I have, they have these small toys. I saw it once where they're kind of a sticky rubber. They're like a sticky rubber, sort of like a frog's tongue. You can flip it out and pick up like a piece of paper on it. You ever seen those? Mm-hmm. You slap it out there and then you pull it back like that. That kind of energetic, gathering impressions like. And in that way, your nutritional needs of your perceptions must be satisfied somehow. You know, the children in where am I reading? In Romania, I think early children in Romania, not early time, during a strong communist time, that these children were not picked up, they were left in cribs and not stimulated in their senses. They had no impressions, only just looking at the ceiling or nothing. They had nothing. They had no language. Even toddlers like that, 3, 4 years old, who had never been handled. And these children could not develop. They could not develop correctly. And I understand they have, as they grew, that they were unusually in need, and very lacking in ability to find impressions. So they were starved, but they didn't know it. They didn't know how to gather impressions, yes? And so impressions are the food of ideas. As the senses are stimulated, they produce a harmonic or a disharmonic in your personal mandala matrix. So something is happening in your perceptual worldview, I'm going to say, for those who not understand personal mandala matrix, that something is being stimulated in your perceptions that either have a consonance, a harmonic, or they are completely disturbed, a disharmonic, in your perceptions. Are you with me? You understand? Digere. So impressions are extremely important for the creation of ideas. So, the word idea is the agreed upon language to be used to discuss the whatever is known or supposed, the word idea is the agreed upon language to be used to discuss the whatever is known or supposed about something without giving it full weight or needing to agree. In ordinary language, it could mean opinion. This is a personal belief as a conviction unproved by general logical or social methods. Yes, by this we can understand how many philosophies and even other countries are judged as other. That it gives a national pride. It gives a national pride in our philosophy, or our convictions, or our ideas, and still allows that whatever the ideas or convictions or principles that others are using are just their opinion. Isn't that so? And this bears very strongly upon the duty that you have in your learning how to get along with others, in being able to use language that is commensurate with the effect that you want to produce. So you might state an important principle, and the other person says, well, that's your opinion. And you don't require too many more words to understand that that person means that you are certainly well within your rights to think that, but you are probably absolutely wrong. Like that. And how people are able to manipulate language, and the more education you have, and the more you use it, the more you are able to lash, what they call a tongue lash someone, and sometimes the other person doesn't even know it. Like that. It's a more educated, sophisticated manner of abusing each other. It's true? Like that. Sometimes you walk away from a conversation and you wonder, was that person disrespecting me? Or what exactly were they trying to say? And they leave it up to you to figure out later when they're at a safe distance, like that. So, when you use it in this way, this is all linguistic manipulation. Linguistic manipulation. When you use it that way, that this means that our philosophy is correct by agreement among ourselves, and others could, might, or do have unproved ideas. Isn't that so? So, We have principles, and they have ideas. However, our group, whatever that is, country, community, little small 4 people together, thinking about important things to them, can come up with quite amazing principles. And this classic is a story I read about what they call Lord of the Flies. Boys on a desert island, no adults, no education, and fending for themselves. And the kind of strange rules and principles and attitudes that they come up with, and ability to punish others for seemingly innocuous reasons, and makes you think also about many different cultures. Saw a movie recently about the Inuit. In the Inuit, in their shamanic culture, tremendous number of rules that if you were going to, and they not have cookies, but if you were going to take a cookie, you had to turn around 3 times, like that. Very unusual and not seeming to relate to the issue at hand. And if you didn't perform things in just that way, according to the principles of their existence, you might cause the entire village to starve. And people who broke rules, little tiny rules, were made to pay huge penalties, as well as confess and have all kinds of dishonors heaped upon them. A very unusual ideas about what were the guiding principles, huh? Like that, and like that. So we have principles and others have ideas, because they can't really prove it like that. In a more positive way, idea and ideals are interchangeable as meaning guiding principles. So what are some examples? What are some examples of the positive methods of idea and ideals? How do we use that as meaning guiding principles? Yes.
Your ideals can determine how you're going to treat someone else or how you're going to interact with other people.
But some practical examples in the world. What methods? What methods do we use ideals? Under what circumstances? And what kinds of ideals are producing guiding principles that produce a very positive results? Yes.
Democracy.
Democracy. I was thinking that democracy and causing people to vote, that these are guiding principles that are based upon agreement among the people in this country, and producing certain kinds of rules. You know, some countries you must vote. It's not an option. You must vote, and if you don't vote, someone will come knock at the door and take you to the voting place, like that. And yes, I think it's Finland, isn't it? Am I right? I'm reading about this not too long ago. And what are some other examples? Yes?
The 10 Commandments.
The 10 Commandments, absolutely. The 10 Commandments are a good idea. The 10 Commandments are a very good idea. They are not just a good idea, they are guiding principles based upon what?
The thought of treating others as you would want to be treated,
But
and
how
not
did
doing
they,
harm.
from where did they get these ideas?
In the Bible, it says they came from God.
Divine inspiration that came from God, yes. And so these guiding principles that come from God, that it impossible to criticize them, because it just not they have, it's not possible to criticize them. That's that. Are there any other examples? How about Buddhist ideals of compassion? The ideals of Buddhism, compassion, love, caring for others, the value of seeking wisdom, many things that could be many important concepts that are used as guiding principles that are not just divinely inspired, but developed. Most of these developed over a very long period of time, and honed in skillfulness in order to benefit many. Yes. Any other good examples of guiding principles, positive ways that idea and ideal are used interchangeably?
The Bill of Rights.
The Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights. Yes. It transcends, and in that way, the ideal transcends the activity of writing it or the copying of it. That there is something shimmering behind a document such as the Bill of Rights that acts as guiding principles for the democracy and voting, as you said in the earlier time there. So, what is an idea? An idea is a copy of a pattern without consideration of how that pattern was formed. Mm-hmm. So, one could, for example, one could reproduce an idea or tell someone an idea about, or like this. The workmen come, the electricians and the plumber and these workmen are coming, and they say, well, what do you want to do here? And my eyes just sort of move around like here and there, like I'm trying to escape, like from what they saying, because I have no idea what I'm talking about. And here I am reproducing a pattern. Jack said that he would like to have that ceiling over here. I don't know why Jack said that. I don't know what was important. Maybe Pema Dorje told Jack something, and Jim and Jack and Pema Dorje talked about it, and here I am telling them the pattern, and I have no idea why. Like that. And I'm not even a very good copy of that pattern. Because all the electrician has to do is say, well, I don't know, what if we do this? And I'd say, well, that sounds good too. And so we talking, or he took the fan down in the outer Dharma hall. And he said, we have to move this fan over. And then he looked at me sadly. He said, you know, they had that heavy fan just hanging, just clutching onto the ceiling tile, like that. This huge heavy fan. And they sort of put like this little tiny piece of wood with maybe some saliva up there. We all looked at it, and he says, you know, they put it right next to the stud. Isn't that so interesting? Like that. And this could have happened 20, 30 years ago like that. And little did they know that they would be being critiqued in the year 2006 like that. So anyway, a copy of a pattern without consideration of how that pattern was formed. Now you know what I'm talking about. Idea can also refer to a plan or a method or acknowledging to someone else that they partially understand your concept. For example, Jack might explain very carefully, step by step, what's going to happen. And I might say, I think I have an idea about what you're talking about. And so the second person has not the idea of why, but they are only following following an idea of another without questioning, or a great deal of faith that that original person who gathered the idea knew what they were doing and how they were how it was going to happen. That they held the vision, and the other person can partially has partial understanding of it, and this actually a very big problem in the transmission of Buddhism from Tibet. That many people over a long time came to Tibet or looked at Tibetan books and gave partial understandings and translations, and partial understanding and translations, and then passed along those ideas, and they sounded really good, but that wasn't what we were talking about. I say we, they at the same time. Wasn't what we were talking about. And so these partial ideas would need to become with a great deal of faith. Because if you start thinking about them, that person with the partial idea might not have enough knowing to be able to help you understand, and they might just repeat the idea again, like that. So we love plain speaking and plain talking, because that means we have to know what we're talking about, like that. I can't hide behind a flurry of words and high-sounding meanings that don't bring that may not bring the desired result. You with me? All right. So the degree, this acknowledging that they are partially understanding your concept. So, to the degree that your understanding of the idea that what you presented was heard and given back, this paraphrasing allows you to see whether your vision was pretty well or not so well understood or alive in the other. So this is sort of a catch-all where people could talk back and forth for some time, gathering partial understandings and paraphrasing back to each other in methods that could find out whether that person actually understood what was being said. And that person would say, did you say that? And you said, well, I think I almost said that. Good, you almost said that. What part of that didn't you understand? And this is how rough communication, meaning human language communication, has to be at its most careful. That if you really need someone to understand what you are saying, you have to go back and forth using many different analogies and different words and different concepts, and listening to that person and saying it again a number of times in order to achieve a larger result. Really, it take a long time. It take a long time. You know, many what you call theatrical productions. I have a new book in the library called Tartuffe. Tartuffe is written by Molière. Did I say it correctly? Molière, a French writer. I had opportunity to go to the Shakespearean theater, or the American Players Theater here in Wisconsin. And I saw this play, so I wanted to get the copy of it so I could look at it again. And many of these earlier plays were all about misunderstandings. It seems to be a classic method to entertain people. That one person partially hears or misunderstands and is not able to communicate carefully with the other, so that this misunderstanding could come a full understanding, like that. Anyway, this is your method. This is one of the words that you use to try to push back and forth like a ping pong match to see how things are going. So that, yes, this paraphrasing allows you to say whether your vision was pretty well or not so well understood or alived in the other. Like that, all art is idea. It is a method to present or to force your idea, your vision, your logic upon others. And those who are able to present their idea in the form of art in a careful manner or in a way that pleases people or disturbs them so that they buy and put this in museums. We don't know which one. Communicate, let's say, communicate an idea that they are considered artists. Others are only representers of a whatever. And of course, when art changes, and as the centuries change, what was representational now become idea. Now become idea, and things that are idea now might be meaningless in the future, like that. So art is mixed with culture, is mixed with other things, another kind of discussion. And it is a visible representation of a conception or an idea, a visual representation, something that you can look at, no words involved, and yet idea is being transmitted to you. I heard a story about so in that way, what people are buying when they go and purchase a piece of art is not art. It is not paint or paper. It is idea. And I hear a story. This in the era where ladies wore these fancy little hats that looked like 14 feathers, like that. Must have been like 1940s or maybe 1950s, like that. And some lady go into a very fancy hat shop, and the Frenchman who has the great skill, he says, "Madame, this a hat." I'm talking Italian. This madame, this hat. To switch accents. Maybe his mother was from Italy and his father was from France. This hat will look absolutely marvelous on you. And he places this creation on her head. And she says, "It is beautiful," like that. And she says, "How much does this cost?" And he says, like $250. And she says, "That's outrageous. That's outrageous. That is far too expensive." And so what he did, he snatched the hat off her head and he put it to shreds with the feathers and the little pieces like that. And he threw it in her lap. He says, "Madame, you take those for free." He says, "I am the artist and my work costs $250, like that. So like that, even artists, I think long time have this idea that you're not paying for materials, you're paying for creation, like that. And then I'm thinking about ideas, that this all very a little bit superficial. I'm thinking these ideas that I'm thinking about idea as as a further nuance of the critical thinking process. There are degrees of agreement regarding the living dynamic of a situation. There are degrees of agreement regarding the living dynamic of a situation. So, presenting an idea about a situation invites others to move their minds in a similar way that yours is moving. Now this is taking it away from the superficiality of most of our previous discussion, although there are elements there which are important, and the excitement of being alive with another and inviting them through gesture, through perhaps, I don't know, maybe you draw a picture like that, maybe Rorschach test, I don't know, and invite them to come move your mind with me like that. Huh? And this actually invites the other to create what I'm calling a core, or a central pivot upon which we are looking at a situation as a living dynamic. If you can't do this, you're only going to work at McDonald's. Among people who are valuable and unusual in their field, they can do this. They can invite others to move, to see this core, and then to dance and move around a situation to create something important. Huh? This also very important in the transmission of the concepts of Buddhism. A good business practice, a highly creative business practice and ideal is the very same as skillful teachers will do regarding in a situation such as we are doing right now. That we move around and we pick up things and we look at them carefully, and they're either discarded as being not valuable, or we form opinions together, and but we look at it from a we invite to see the central pivoting point, which we're going to be getting here soon. The core concept of the work that I do, talking about how you are actually alive, is the exact example that I am talking about. Yes? All right. Now others can participate in understanding a holistic view of a specific situation, as well as the now shared vision of the significance. It's a very sophisticated and skillful and empowering method to help others understand. I don't think it a good idea to pile education upon people by rote. We did a lot of rote. Now I have other choices. It's so good. Even I have choices. And rote learning, memorization and rote learning is not as good as inviting to have a shared vision and to see the holistic view, and sharing a vision of the significance of what we are looking at. Very exciting work. So it's a little bit about the living dynamic, and move on. And I wish I could remember the name of the book. Dignaga, anyway, was an early Buddhist philosopher. We'll talk a little bit about philosophy here now. Dignaga, early Buddhist Indian philosopher. Probably, really, I hate to say, 400s, 600s, like that. The early Buddhist philosophy was very much in showing the Hindu philosophers that they were wrong. And this was very handy because the greatest adherents of Buddhism at that time were ex-Hindus like that, because that's what everybody was Hindu. And so it was important for the early Buddhist scholars and debaters to debate the most influential and highest ranking Hindus and beat them soundly in logic. And so Dignaga was one of these marvelous early Buddhist philosophers, and in that way Buddhism grew. And he had a direct disregard for the concept of universals. Universals are, in the Hindu philosophy, a non-corporeal, non-corporeal and a non-energetic model of everything. So, for example, a cow could not exist. They say there's no way that you could know that a cow, like one of those animals out here, is a cow. Because you haven't seen that particular cow. How do you know it's a cow? Anyway, these are the kinds of thinking that they had. And they said that there was a universal model for cow. And the only way that you knew that was a cow was because of its cowness. Because of its cowness, and you could apply the cowness on top of the cow, and you could say, this is a cow. It's true. I know it sounded foolishness, but this is the environment into which and they had some many. Actually, when you start looking at it, you might wind up starting to believe in universals too. So we're gonna tell you in advance that Dignaga had all of the good ideas, and there is no way that it can possibly stand up logically. And like that, the problem of universals was an issue that he took particular regard for, and in that way, his philosophy remains even to this day. And however, you can pick up books, translations of Hindu philosophy that talk about how wonderful universals are. Anyway, so it still goes on. In Western philosophy, and this is in your culture, idea can refer to a transcendent entity that is a real pattern of which existing things are imperfect representations. So you're not too far off from the Hindus like that. You understand what I said? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. In Western philosophy, idea can refer to a transcendent entity that is the real pattern of which its object, which the existing things are imperfect representations. So it's not exactly like what I'm describing as the Hindu process. Yes?
Can you give an example of that, Rinpoche, please?
The cow exists in a therapeutic, transcendent evaluation. The actual cow cannot possibly be as good as the real cow, as the real model, It could never, the cow could never come up to the perfection of the actual cow in the transcendent. What other example?
Be like the soul, the idea of the perfect eternal soul.
No, not of the soul, not of the soul.
You're saying this is a Western
Western,
perspective.
yes.
I was thinking on sports figures, sometimes they get into a transcendent position in their abilities, which I feel in the group mind is a lot bigger than what really they stand for, but they get elevated to this position. Okay.
No, because they talk about the imperfection. Uh, 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 yes.
Well, we have a saying, an idea whose time has come, and I wonder if it's referring to that sort of thing, like there's this universal ideal, and when the time is right, it just sort of hits people. You know,
No,
and-
no, because this talks about the imperfect representations. I think the cow example worked pretty good. And so let's go on, The idea also is a kind of personal philosophy and logic system of which you are the main adherent and the main disseminator of your own personal philosophy and logical system. True? True. And in that way, you are also there among the philosophers, all right? And in the philosophy of Plato, an archetype, he talks about an archetype of which a corresponding being in phenomenal reality is an imperfect replica. This is an idea. This is Plato, and much of the Western philosophy come from the Greeks and Romans, Greeks, mostly Greek thought. So, in the philosophy of Kant. In the philosophy of Kant, a concept of reason that is transcendent, but no empirical. This means using methods that are not measurable according to present scientific methods. He also uses idea as ideal in larger context as an inner standard of perfection. Now this is a little bit coming closer to a logical system, where he is talking about a concept of reason that doesn't depend upon outer functioning calculations in order to be real. That Kant is using this in the form of being a transcendent reasoning that does not have to be proven in empirical worldly standards. So yes?
What do you mean by transcendent?
Transcendent means non-worldly,
So
interior, beyond the human condition and the human realm. Interior. I'm sure he meant interior. I don't think he meant the stars. What other transcendent is there?
I don't think a lot of Western people have an idea of transcendence being on the inside. They think of it as on the outside somewhere.
In the sky.
Just on the outside somewhere.
Where? Can you point?
Another dimension, but outside.
Another dimension, like outside.
They don't.
They don't think about it.
We're not traditionally taught to look in.
But you don't think about it.
Up in the clouds.
Up in the clouds.
The original view was the earth was flat and there was this curved ceiling over the top of it. And
Yes.
transcend meant it was beyond that curved ceiling.
And how do you fit into that idea? Do you believe that?
A lot of our language is based on that concept.
Yeah, but do you believe it? Do you believe that you can actually go to the clouds? Like
Yes,
this?
an airplane.
No, this really.
But
Perhaps they not teach you this, huh?
But-
They not teach you how to think about this.
but I think
Perhaps this is an idea that you got.
It's the little heavenly, cloud.
Is that an idea, an unformed and unproved idea?
Yeah.
Okay, I think so, but yes.
I was thinking that our concept of transcendent comes from the idea of where heaven is too, which is above. Like to transcend regular thinking is to go above it.
So it was
And
the
then
sky
where,
heaven-
and then
was
where will you
above
be? Where
In
will you
heaven.
be?
My understanding of transcendence more of is that it's lacking of obstacles or of negative. I mean, that's to me, that's always been half of the concept, is that it's lacking,
Lacking-
the negative.
Lacking the negative. And nobody here is at all talking about perceptions. They don't teach you at all that about perceptual reality. My goodness, like that. Let's go on. In the philosophy of Hegel, this is the last philosopher we're going to look at. Hegel says idea is absolute truth, the complete and ultimate product of reason. So he is using idea in a unique form, don't you think? I don't think there are others that would refer to idea as being the. He would have to explain that this is his word using for absolute truth. All right. And an idea, to go on, and I'll change subject here. An idea is as an object. An idea is something that either could or does actually exist in the mind as the result of thinking about a subject. Now that kind of tickles my mind when I think that possibly that there is an object in the mind which wasn't there before, which has come about by either by various elements, and I have created an object in my own mind that wasn't there before. So in that way, this is exactly the same thing that I'm talking about, gathering a state of mind. Isn't that so? Yes, exactly.
Rinpoche, it made me think of when you were talking about a pre-active state.
Yes.
Is this what happens after the pre-active state?
No. No, when the mind begins to move. Oh, let me think about that. No. The pre-active state is different. This is talking about creating and gathering and creating a specific state of mind, and it's done by thinking, it's done by gathering various elements, various impressions, etc. And you creating an idea as an object, and even in your Western context, that it is acknowledged that something could be created and is real and yet exists within your mind. Yes?
So I was thinking that before, when you were talking about pre-active state, that's...
No, the pre-active state not move. It not move.
After the pre-active state.
You can't talk about the pre-active state and then once the mind moves, no. You can't talk about once you talk about the movement of the pre-active state, you could be talking anywhere from going out and having a sandwich to sitting down and meditating. It doesn't matter what direction once the mind starts moving, it could move anywhere and do anything. But the pre-active state is quietude. I'm going to say it, yes. I can't exactly say that, but idea as concept might objectify it as object to be worshipped, or seen as a whole to be considered as what a thing ought to be. Concept could relate to a higher principle developed by others that is acknowledged to be true or valid method of expression of reality. But still looking at it in the form of an object. And this object does not have to be thought by you. You only have to accept it as an object in its totality. And then you could do all kinds of things like worship it, or look at it as though this is real, but it's unexamined by you. And eventually, you will have to examine these things. So we think it better to start sooner rather than later. So it is possible to carry a concept without having, in another way, it is possible to carry a concept without having the elements that are part of its process. For example, the concept of karma, that you do not have to have, nor is it intended that you have a full understanding of karma in order to be able to hold an understanding of whatever it is that you understand is an idea that is very real, and to whatever extent that you are able to gather elements, it adds to your understanding or to your concept, but it is quite okay to have a partial understanding, because that's what learning is about, is growing and gathering more elements so that your concepts become more vivified. Eh? So, okay. Now, yes, dear.
How does transitional space come in the ideal?
Transitional space?
Yeah, like.
No, I didn't hear you say that.
No, I'm asking, I'm wondering. Because we talk about these transitional truths, and I'm wondering how ideas that you said partially true,
Yes.
that's where I went with the transitional space. And I don't know if it's even worth considering, but it just popped in my head. That we always talk about these transitional spaces that hold us until we're able to hear the larger truth. And you were talking about ideas.
Did I ever talk that?
Transitional viewpoint?
Stages.
Oh, stages. Transitional views.
Yeah.
Oh, I heard you say transitional space.
Oh, sorry.
I was
Yeah.
thinking of time and space, and I'm wondering. Transitional views, yes, would relate to these concepts. However, in a transitional view, that there is an important part of a transitional view, which means that energetically and mentally, and the different levels of your being are operating from a certain platform. I'm going to call it a platform, like being drowning in the ocean, and you are lifted up onto a oil drilling derrick in the middle of the ocean. Nothing around for thousands of miles except this derrick, which is deeply rooted and foundationed into the sea floor, and penetrating, and you are lifted up to that platform. You don't even know anything about the platform that you're on, or the possibilities, or what oil is, or why are these people doing this out in the middle of nowhere. However, you have some idea that you are out of danger. That you are out of danger, and even though you see the ocean all around you and sharks swimming like that, and you think, oh, I was in that water and there were sharks, and now I'm here and I'm safe, even though I don't fully understand what these people are doing, or how this whole thing operates, or for what purpose it is, and that is your transitional view. And
Is there any relationship to the idea? What's an idea in that?
that your transitional view is the concept of the path that you presently hold. Yes.
Rinpoche, could you say that
And energetically, not just intellectually, energetically. What you're prepared to know. What you're prepared to know, what you're capable of knowing. There's no use telling you everything if your transitional view. This is why how all these fantastic stories came about. Like a god fly down from the sky, and a chariot, and all kinds of concepts that were presented, because that is all that people could understand. As people became more capable of understanding, then teachers are much more willing and able and empowered to teach what you are capable of hearing. They're no use to talk about about many things. You can touch on subjects, but there's no use in talking about many things that are meaningless for you in your transitional, while you're on the oil drilling platform, like that. Yes. Who had? Like that.
I was going to ask, is the in your analogy, is the platform a collection of ideas that you have?
It could be your worldview, where you are at in some kind of totality of understanding, energetic and intellectual, whatever it is, like that. Mentally, maybe you're still in the water, but at least in some levels, maybe you're on the platform. I don't know. So, ideas are an important part of interacting with the world. And this is very exciting to tell you that ideas are a special human realm ability. It's unique. Ideas are not done in this same way in interior processes. It is unique to human realm. Special human realm ability that processes sensory data, inner and outer, and recreates it in another form to be presented again to inner and outer world to be considered. It's really quite exciting and magical. Ideation is the deliberate gathering of elements to process the data of the senses and holds it in a special way to be able to be used as elements of another process or processes. It is a method. Ideation is the gathering of the nutrition, the food, impressions, knowledge, feelings, capacities that are processed, holding in a special way. They're being held in a special way. It definitely is being held. It definitely is being held in your Mandala Matrix. That these ideas and the various like that. I guess I'm not going to talk about that. We might talk about that some other time, as so that they can be called forth and used as elements to be paraphrased. Let's say paraphrased in the way of another idea. A group of people sitting at a table, and they have $5 between them, and they want to go to Disneyland, like that. And so they start to throwing ideas around at each other, and one person pick up on an idea, and they add something of their own idea and feed it back to the group, and they continuously they're feeling something exciting, a kind of creativity inside in being able to manipulate memory, education, experiences, all of these things together to recreate and make an effect on the world and interact with the world. In that way, ideas are how we are creative in our personal identity. And in creative people, this ability is enhanced. But all humans have this ability. So, there are three factors. There are three factors in this dynamic. Events, mind, and others. These are the three important factors in ideas, in idea. Events are what is happening in time and space in your world. This could be in your family, community, in your work, in a creative hobby or activity, in the world or in the universe. This is a dynamic of the mixture of events, mind, and others. Mind is what's happening in your perceptions, mixed with your perceptions of how you feel about your perceptions or mental state. Sometimes that's very uncomfortable. Not only are you using your perceptions, but you also have a strange kind of a feedback loop. Some people it built in very strongly. Some people can't get up on a stage because they see themselves standing on the stage talking to someone, talking to an audience, and in that way they can't tolerate that echo like that, and they begin to sweat, and they begin to think, how do I look, and what am I saying, and pretty soon they can't think at all. Sometimes I hear they even faint like that. So their perceptions of how they feel about their perceptions. Mind also includes the influences of interactivity, such as your actual being. And it also includes energetic influences, such as feeling the energies or perceptions of others. So this is all happening in your mind. And others, in the category of others, the needs of others, the value of others, the interactions needed by you from others, and how others might help or harm you. So, how we mingle these elements and what importance we give to each is our human ability to be creative and skillful. Correct meditation practice, organically and naturally, and you know what I mean, talking about the organic and natural process. Correct meditation practice, organically and naturally, changes the proportion of weight you give to these elements. And the greatness of the Mahayana lies in this dynamic. Isn't that so? Your ability to gradually give more weight to the element of others in the correct manner, trains you toward the highly creative path of the Bodhisattva. We're going to do dedication, but I want to just have a couple of minutes here. We're going to go on. We're just going to do a little bit short meditation to think about how this dynamic of events, mind and others, where are you in your personal process that creates ideas that are valuable, or are we in a place where the ideas are only self-serving? Events, mind, and others. Be honest with yourself and look at the weight that you might be giving. Must not forget any of the elements. careful problem solving, careful creativity, dynamic influence, deliberately activating stronger but not exclusive, stronger emphasis on others without losing your mooring in the event about which you are creating an idea. And appreciating your perceptions and your own abilities to use your mind. Yes. I like it. This is study. This is real study. And a careful observation of your own abilities and your own situation. Like that. From our, the teaching the other day, seemed only like 2 or 3 days ago, I think it was only 2 or 3 days ago, and talking about merit and how to do correct dedication of merit. Now you're going to dedicate the results of this activity and dedicate it to your root of virtue for the benefit of your enlightenment so that you can benefit all sentient beings. What is the English? I dedicate the end of the sadhana. I dedicate these to complete and total enlightenment so that I may be of benefit to all sentient beings. May it be so. May it be so. Strong dedication. Now just do it mentally, very carefully. Someone did it. Who practices dedication of merit. Come on, do it strong. There. If you do it strong, you can do it. Yes. Do it strong, just like you did it then. Gewa dinya tu daklama sangitu kunedro chikimalupa ge salago parsho. Good night. Good night on the telephone. See you all soon.